What's happening, everybody? These are my top 10 things to do in the Eternal City, that is Rome, Italy. So starting off my list at number 1 is to get a view, that is a sunset view at the Terrazza del Pincio. Now the Terrazza del Pincio is located just above the Piazza del Popolo, and one of my favorite things to do, just in general when visiting any place, is to get a really good viewpoint and vantage point to get a good idea of the surrounding area and the beauty that the area typically resides in. So from here you get a really great view of the historic center of Rome. You can see things like St. Peter's Basilica in the distance and lots of really beautiful buildings surrounding you. Also, keep your eye out for these sort of flock of birds that look like black clouds of dust, but they're actually starlings. They fly really close together. It's a really cool sight. As you can see, it's no secret. There's other people here as well, but you can still definitely get a view without feeling like you're fighting through, trying to squeeze by to see part of Rome. Now, number 2 on this list is an iconic thing. Let's just get out of the way, but not gloss over it, which is to visit the Colosseum, or the Colosseum. Now, the Colosseum is one of the 7 new wonders of the world. It's an iconic site, so definitely need to do it. It lives up to the hype. Now, the Colosseum was actually built back in 80 AD. That is 80 after death. No, it's not. It's Anno Domini, or Year of Our Lord. Just the first little history lesson for you guys today. Typically, the entry was fee for all people visiting, but of course, the more reputable or famous or wealthy spectators would get the front row seats, like you would at a Lakers game in LA, and people that didn't have that high of social status or money or any sort of thing, they had to sit in the nosebleeds with a lot further away of a view. Now, the gladiator games took place in the Colosseum, which are very famous. Had to throw that in there, guys. So those lasted until the 5th century, and they also did hunting spectacles and sort of death by animal or animals death by human, that sort of thing. Really brutal games that took place in the Colosseum. Today, it obviously is no longer this. It's a tourist attraction, and about 2/3 of the original structure has been destroyed due to some certain events and vandalism and whatever else may have you. But to me, this created a really cool contrast between then and now, what it is today and what it previously was, with the outer walls looming above the more reduced current structures of the Colosseum. A really cool thing that was on display was the hypogeum, or sort of underground network of tunnels that was used to transport and have people live underneath, not live, but stay underneath the actual arena area of the Colosseum, such as like people that were slaves, like gladiators, or the animals used to take part in the game. So it's really cool to get now a view of this expansive network of tunnels on display, the hypogeum. You can learn all of this and more in the actual Colosseum itself, because upon paying your entry fee, you get to enter the main area, which has actually been turned into a bit of a museum. So you can read and understand lots of different historical context and see different uses of it over the time, and also, of course, get a view of the beautiful place inside. And no video of Italy would be complete without talking about the food scene, so that is why number 3 is to try Roman pizza. Now, Roman pizza isn't quite as famous, I didn't know it was a big deal, as its nearby neighbor that is Neapolitan pizza from Naples, but it's really worthwhile to try this because Roman pizza is shaped in a bit of a square. The crust is very different than Neapolitan style, where this Roman pizza is a bit like thin, a little bit airy, but also crunchy. Not too crunchy, but like a little soft, like, I don't know, you'll have to see it for yourself if you go to Rome. It's really delicious. They typically have many different kinds on display at the pizzerias, and you choose the different type you want and also the size that you want them to cut. Then they weigh up the pizza and you pay by weight. Really cool, really delicious, good to walk around and eat it on the street as you go around from site to site, because you definitely will need to refuel after walking around the extensive city that is Rome. And yeah, it's also a really cheap, affordable option as well, depending on the place you go. They're all over the place. Have to try it while in Rome. Alright, so going back to typical proceedings, we want to talk about number 3, which is to visit the Trevi Fountain. But you guys have never heard of this one, right? No, of course you know it, but for good reason. This is another one of the ultra famous sites in Rome, but it is famous and worthwhile for good reason, because this is an absolutely massive, beautiful Baroque fountain. It's the largest Baroque fountain in all of Rome, coming in at, I believe, 65 feet tall and 85 feet wide. It's way bigger than I thought it was going to be in person. It also has on display the god Oceanus, not Poseidon at the center stage, which many people would commonly confuse to be the god right in the center of the fountain itself. Also, the water is a very beautiful blue, which is really aesthetically pleasing to see, and tons of coins are thrown in there. Supposed to do your right hand over your shoulder, facing away from the fountain. I believe 3,000 euros are thrown in that fountain every day. So if you really want to, you know, make a fortune, just swim in there and get all you can, then run away. Now, don't do that, you'll be arrested, everybody.
I call the police now.
I must arrest you for this.
Okay.
So another must-see site that at first I wasn't sure if I wanted to go, but I figured why not, because it's close to the Trevi Fountain, but it has to make my list, is to visit the Steps de España. That's not the word. Let's just call it Spanish Steps and make it nice and simple. Now these are a beautiful set of stairs that link the Spanish square, the Spanish piazza, near the Spanish embassy, to the beautiful Trinita de Monti, which is a massive church above these 137, I believe, steps. It was built back in 1723 by Francesco di Sanctis, and these are arguably the most famous stairs in the world that actually exist, because the Stairway to Heaven, I don't think it exists, but I would like to visit one day if it does. Not the stairway to the basement, if you catch my drift. Now from the church itself, once you climb the stairs, there's actually a really good view over the historic center of Rome as well. Just make sure you don't sit down and try and catch your breath while going up the steps, because sitting on the steps is an actual fine, because otherwise no one will be able to climb it, because all the tourists will be sitting there hanging out all day. You can actually get a 400 euro fine, so don't do that. Also, it's worth taking in the beautiful Baroque fountain down below in the Spanish plaza. Really cool overall site here with lots to see and do, and I think it was definitely worth my time to do it. Now coming in at number 6 is going to be the Piazza Novana. Now the Piazza Novana is probably my favorite plaza in all of Rome. It's actually oval shaped because back in the day it was originally built to be a stadium, and yeah, it held up to 30,000 spectators. So not quite as massive in scale to the Colosseum, but really cool as well. But what really makes this place awesome is it has a large plaza. It is a large plaza with 3 different Baroque fountains that are really famous and really picturesque. The names are really long, but you can see them on screen. Obviously, there's also a really beautiful church right in the middle of the plaza as well. So definitely a plaza worth taking in. Has everything you want as far as public space, grandiose size, and beautiful fountains, all wrapped into this historical not wonder of the world, but wonderful place yet to see in Rome. So after walking around to the many sites that we're going to visit in Rome, this one's also going to be carb heavy, which is to eat Roman pasta, because there are 4 main Roman pastas that you need to try. The first, everyone knows it, this is carbonara. We have amatriciana. We have pasta alla gricia, and then cacio e pepe. Pepe, sorry, not pepe. Now all of these 4 pastas seem to be very delicious. I tried 2 of them. My favorite was the pasta gricia. Most of these pastas, except for the amatriciana, which has sort of a tomato-based sauce, have a creamy sort of white sauce, which uses pasta water. So delicious, everybody. Don't sleep on Roman pasta. Now, number 8 on this list is kind of a hacky thing, because technically this could be broken down into many more things than just one. This is going to be to explore the country residing pretty much inside of Rome, which is the Vatican City, the smallest country in the world. And there's sort of 3 main things I recommend you do inside. One is going to be, of course, St. Peter's Basilica. My biggest recommendation, because it is a massive, beautiful, ornate, ridiculously grandiose inside of a church. Now we are inside San Pietro Basilica, or St. Peter's big ass church. Sorry. And what I also recommend you do is go to the very top of St. Peter's Dome, because this has great views of the Vatican and also Rome as well. And for me, it was a super fun experience, kind of winding up this little staircase, this tiny little sort of tunnel corridor, going up all these steps. Really fun, definitely a good journey and good destination and viewpoint as well. I don't know if I can do this. I'm claustrophobic. So 2 is going to be the Vatican Museums, which is going to have a total of 26 different museums for you to check out. This is going to be things such as the Sistine Chapel. We're going to see some different sites showing off art, sculptures, artifacts through history, not just Roman history and Italian history, but also world history as well. So massive, so worthwhile to do. Depending on what you're interested in, you'll definitely find something. There's also a bit of an outside corridor area which showcases some different sculptures, such as a sphere within a sphere. We see this really cool pine cone fountain. We can also see inside the museum itself, not in an exhibit, but the Bramante double helix staircase, which you can go up and down at the same time. So really cool to see that in the Vatican Museum as well. And then number 3, of course, is just going to be take in the beautiful and iconic St. Peter's Square outside of St. Peter's Basilica. We have a large obelisk, a fountain, and you can marvel at all the statues and beautiful Catholic buildings around you. Just a really iconic site you have to see and do, in combination with going into the Basilica itself and checking out the Vatican museums, seeing the Sistine Chapel, Raphael's rooms, works by Leonardo da Vinci. So much here, especially if you are an art and historian. Of course, you want to go to the Vatican if you're visiting Rome and that's your thing. And for number 9, we are re-entering Italy, going back to Rome herself. Now we're going to go to a place near the Colosseum, which is going to be the Roman Forum. You can't miss this place, it's right nearby, and the Roman Forum is really popular and worthwhile to see because this is sort of the main hub of the Roman Empire, ancient Rome that is, where a lot of different political meetings happened, religious practices, or social activities. So this was like the downtown, pretty much, the main hub of ancient Rome. Now, walking amongst the Forum, you will be overwhelmed by a lot of different sites and structures. The main ones are going to be ones such as the Senate House, we can see the Temple of Saturn, and the Arch of Titus, among many others. It'll make your head spin, your eyes will start bleeding. No, not anything that intense, but there'll be a lot to take in, so make sure to appreciate it and walk around the area and just take in all the beautiful history and sites, because you'll see a lot of them inevitably while walking around Rome. Now, number 10 on this list is going to be honorable mentions, which is just an excuse for me to make this a top 10 list, when in reality, this could definitely be like a top 15 list or something like that. So number 10 honorable mention A, or the first option, I guess, is going to be the Pantheon. Many are probably already raising their pitchforks at me because I didn't put this in its own sort of position. But the Pantheon is arguably the oldest, most preserved building in Rome. Is still actually used today because in the 7th century, it was changed to be used as sort of a church, where back in the day it wasn't used for such purpose, at least to my knowledge. I could be wrong. Really beautiful, really well preserved, and it just is stunning and massive. In the plaza, it is sticking out to be a really important historical piece of Rome that is in exceptional condition even now today. And now option number 2 is going to be Palatine Hill. Now, Palatine Hill is located right near the Colosseum and Roman Forum. They're sort of a little trifecta of the three. In fact, if you pay for an entry ticket to the Colosseum, you'll get free entry to these other 2 as well. So definitely should check out all 3 of them regardless, but Palatine Hill is a really green hill that during ancient Rome was considered to be the luxurious, most sought after neighborhood to live in. So this is where the royalty lived, this is where the nobles, aristocrats, people had a lot of money. So it's a really cool area to walk around and see the old structures, what they considered luxury, and to be the place you wanted to be back in the day. It's also really quiet, it's green, and you get some really good views of the Roman Forum, the historic center of Rome, and of course the Colosseum right nearby as well. So definitely worthwhile to throw in the mix, but to me was a little bit less cool, personally, as the site itself, besides these other places we mentioned. My third honorable mention is going to be the neighborhood of Trastevere. Now, Trastevere, I didn't actually get to visit myself, but I heard really good things about it. It's sort of a bohemian, more hip neighborhood where they have lots of trattorias, which is like a local small Italian restaurant, breweries, more individual sort of small restaurants, giving it a more unique, hip, they call it the real Rome, a little bit outside of the touristic historic center of Rome, but a good way to get another feel. Now, last on the list is going to be the Castel San Angelo, or San Angelo, which is right nearby the Vatican City. If you just want to walk and take a little bit of a view of it, I highly recommend it. It was built back in 135 by the AD, of course, by Hadrian, who was the Roman emperor, and in the 5th century it was converted to be a fortress, where back in the day it was used as a mausoleum for Hadrian himself. So really cool to check that out. Also, we didn't have any castles on the list, so it's something a little bit different to see and do. So those are my top 10 things to do in Rome, everybody. In the Eternal City, essentially it is an open air museum, but one that will blow you away, one that won't leave you bored. There's so many historical sites to see, so these of course are the highlights and the things I recommend. I recommend just walking around to see all these different places, because you'll see lots of little hidden gems along the way, which might not have got a specific mention, but add to the depth and beauty and complexity of your trip in Rome. So what do you think, everybody? Am I missing out on any glaringly obvious omissions from this list or anything like that? Or do you think I hit the nail on the head? Let me know in the comments below. Are you heading to Rome soon? Would love to hear from you all. So thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.